Well, good evening, everyone. Sorry for the technical issues here this evening. My name is Dr. Tom Preston. For those of you who haven't had the chance to meet. So again, I apologize for the technical issues. Technology is an amazing thing, but it also has its finicky moods. So welcome to tonight's webinar. If you're not familiar with the AnyMeeting platform, if you put your mouse over top of the slides or the graphics, there's usually a button in the top right-hand corner that you can maximize them to make the slides bigger, which will, of course, give you more access to some of the images we'd like to show you tonight, because a picture is definitely worth 1,000 words. So tonight we're going to be talking about how to make and keep more money for the beautiful service you provide humanity. I know that the vast majority of you, everybody on this webinar, are entrepreneurs, whether you're watching it live or recorded, and many of you in the healthcare industry, particularly the chiropractic industry. And so my experience has been now 18 years as a professional coach consultant is that many of the people that I've had the privilege of meeting and working with around the world, of the thousands I've worked with, find that managing money is a hassle, and it just never seems to end with more money than month. There always seems to be more month left than money. And this is not something that's unique to, if this is something that you have a challenge with, or you don't feel like you are generating the amount of revenue you should be generating or could be generating for the amazing service you offer. Trust me, you're not alone. It's got nothing to do with your town, your country. It's common across the world, in the world of entrepreneurism, particularly in healthcare, particularly in chiropractic. So if that's something that you seem to find a challenge, you're in good company. And there's probably those of you on the call tonight that if you had a better money management plan, you would actually be better at it. Most of us have read some of Malcolm Gladwell's writings, like The Tipping Point and so on. And he talks about how if you have 10,000 hours at something, you become a master. Well, many of us have got 10,000 hours in our professions and in our place of work, and we're masterful at that. But when it comes to money management and the laws of fair exchange and the concepts of abundance consciousness and so on, many of us have, maybe a handful of hours that we put in towards studying or thinking about that. So I promise you, just by investing the time tonight in this program, that you will definitely have more awareness about the concepts of money management. You'll have more awareness of the concepts of abundance consciousness. And what I'd like to do is leave you with basically a game plan for how to devise and implement the many strategies that I've learned over my years as a professional coach consultant, and my study just as an entrepreneur, that has helped me basically go from my relatively humble beginnings, folks, to where my wife and I tend to reside today. Just to give you a little background for those of you I don't know, I grew up on a rural hobby farm in central Canada, in the province of Ontario, and we had a fairly lower middle class, sort of socioeconomic class upbringing. My dad was an entrepreneur. He was literally a lumberjack, and he went through sort of feast and famine phase through the logging industry, and there's many, many, many months he'd go without getting any paycheck. My mom worked as a secretary. She had a secretarial job at a local high school. And I remember she got paid every 2 weeks. And the reason I knew that is because for the first week after the paycheck came in, we ate pretty good. And then the second week, we quite frankly reached to the back of the cupboards. And I remember a lot of challenges, a lot of arguments in my family about money. And, if you look at the statistics, my psychologist friends tell me that the two things that couples argue about the most is money, children, and quite frankly, sexuality. So definitely money was an issue in my family. And if you've done any work with some of the teachers that I worked with, like T. Harv Eker and so on, and certainly Mark Victor Hansen, Bob Proctor, you realize that there's a thing called a money blueprint. And a money blueprint is commonly set. It's like a thermostat on your furnace, and it's set at a certain level. And this is not a moral discussion we're having, folks, so don't get into morality. This is not about right or wrong, good or bad. Whether your thermostat's set at 50,000 or 500,000 or 500 million isn't the point. I promise you that it's set somewhere. And I know that mine was set at a relatively modest level as a child, because there was just lots of problems in my family around money. And I also realized that, here's my dad. He's now 70, just had his 78th birthday, and he still has a mortgage on his home. He doesn't have any savings. They just live paycheck to paycheck, hand to mouth, because that was what they grew up with. That's what they learned. That's what they do. And they still do it. I realized that in order for me to live the life of my dreams, I figured I better learn something about this concept of money, this concept of abundance, this concept of fair exchange. And so I've literally been studying this now for over 25 years. I've read literally hundreds of books on the topic. I've invested tens of thousands of dollars in coaching and advising work. And, you know, my wife and I are definitely in a different place than our parents were, and we're quite grateful for that. I actually set an intention in my late 20s to be personally debt-free by age 35, and I was. I set an intention to be completely debt-free before 40, and I was at age 38. So some of the concepts and things I want to share with you tonight actually have validity, certainly not just in my life, but in the lives of my clients as well. Certainly this was something that one of our clients shared with us years ago, where he made an extra $100,000, very successful chiropractor, but he made an extra $100,000 in revenue in his practice by following some of the concepts and principles that I'm going to share with you tonight. So this is not something that I could possibly give you my 25-year study in the next 45 minutes. But what I intend to give you is the Coles Notes version of that, which my intention in sharing this information is will help you become more certain about who you are, your role, and that you can start to devise a plan for how you can take the exchange for the amazing service you offer in your business and basically keep more of it at the end of the month. The pinnacle of my chiropractic practice, my practice ran between 22 and 27% overhead, which basically right now the chiropractic average is running around 50 to 55%. So it was about twice, if you will, half as much as most people would tend to be running their businesses at. And that was a very conscious intention on my part. And there's many strategies we had in place to do that. But it all starts with some basic principles. And so let's get in and talk about some of the things I want to share with you tonight. There's basically 7 concepts I want to share with you tonight. If you're a note taker and something sparks you, I really do encourage you to jot some notes. And certainly if at any point after the program you would love to touch base with me and ask me a couple questions, don't hesitate to reach out, folks. I believe very strongly in the concept of abundance. The more we share, the more we learn, the more we grow, the more we get. So if you would love to ask me some specific questions about your world, your life, your practice, don't hesitate to reach out, folks, please. It's a really simple email. It's drtom, drtom@drtompreston.com, drtompreston.com. So just an open-ended invitation, folks. So here's some concepts for you to cover tonight. How do you know when enough is enough? How do you define success for yourself? Again, I want to be really clear that the only definition of success that matters for you is yours, not anybody else's, just yours. And we're going to talk about why that's important in terms of manifesting more abundance in your life. I want to talk about how to monetize your dreams based on your core values, on the essence of who you are, into a solid plan of action. We're going to cover concepts of how and why to segment money, the psychology of money, into appropriate categories to maximize your dreams. We're going to talk about how to convert your financial plan into a debt of service to supercharge your dreams. This was definitely one of the most important concepts I ever learned from one of my great teachers. We're going to talk about how to ensure your plan is congruent with the amount of energy you want to exchange with the universe. We're going to lay out a Hansel and Gretel breadcrumb trail, like the old nursery rhyme, or how to go from where you are to where you'd like to be in really nice bite-sized pieces. And I'll teach you the psychology of that as well. And I'd also hope to enroll you in the concept of creating a monitoring or accountability system so you can adapt and flex your plan as needed. As Drucker said years ago, Peter Drucker said, anything that gets measured can change from its set point. And so monitoring and having an accountability system is really important. So without too much further ado, folks, and again, I do apologize for the technical issues, let's just dive right in. And I really want to start this concept with this discussion based upon a principle that's really important in my company, which is called, how do you know when enough is enough? And how do you define success for yourself? There's an old cliche, but it really holds true in my world, which says you can't hit a target you can't see. So if you don't know what it is that you would like to do, the likelihood of ever realizing you're there or actually charting a path for how to get there is almost improbable or impossible. Let's take it back to when we're back in our university days and we decide that we want to go on spring break and we want to go down, we want to go somewhere warm, we want to have some fun. And we get to the end of the driveway and I'm in, shotgun and you're driving and I say, okay, so which way do we go? And you go, do I turn left or I turn right? I said, well, where do you want to end up? And you go, well, I don't know. Well, then it doesn't matter whether we turn left or turn right because you don't know where the hell you want to go. So if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a definition for success for yourself, you may literally be living a successful life, but because you've never defined it, you don't realize it, and you end up feeling, less than whole your entire life when really you were living a successful life. You had just never defined it. So let's go through some of these basic concepts here. I contend very strongly that all living things want to express themselves in a certain and very unique way, a very authentic way. A moth always wants to go to a light. A salmon always wants to swim up the same stream every spring. And for most, not all, but most Canada geese, they want to fly south every winter and north every spring. It's programmed. They want to express themselves in a certain way. And I contend that every human being, every living thing on planet Earth wants to express itself in a certain unique and a certain authentic way. And the clearer you are about what that is for you, and the clearer you are about how to manifest that in your life, the more energy, the more passion, the more inspiration you have behind you. I find most people, when I start coach consulting them, they have maybe a bit of an idea, but they don't have crystal clarity about who they are, why they are who they are, and where it is they want to go. They don't know as a goose that they want to go south, so they may end up in, I don't know, China or something. They may end up staying north and freezing into the ice, to use a goofy metaphor. So once you're clear about who you really, really, really are and what it is you like to express yourself in your life, it gives you tremendous power. If you have a worldview that I do that sees an intelligence in the universe, which I choose to call God or universal intelligence, there's a subset of that within us, which I call your most authentic self or innate intelligence. If you follow that worldview, then you realize that when you connect to that essence, that most authentic part of you, you're connecting to the power, the wisdom, and the energy and the creativity of the entire universe. And you have access to, again, wisdom, power, and creativity that you do not have, as bright as you all are, you do not have when you're just using your intellectual brain in order to, figure stuff out and figure out your life. So as common sense as that step seems, folks, it's actually something that many people just dismiss. And they're left wondering whether the life they're living, the life they're building, the business they're building is really something that they want to do. And you have to end up with a classic midlife crisis, in your 40s, 50s, or 60s, where you wake up one day realizing you haven't lived one friggin' moment alive in your own life. You're living somebody else's life, and you're wondering why you haven't been a success by usually someone else's definition, right? And so getting that piece, and in our programs, we talk about your core values. And your core values, there's a whole questionnaire that we have. It's actually a product that you can access on our website, which I'll give you some information about. For those of you who've never done it, I highly recommend spending the time to answer questions like are on this slide here. How you spend your time, what do you buy with your money, what makes you come alive, when do you feel cherished for being you, when are you most focused, et cetera, et cetera. Because by doing this series of questions, particularly in our programs, it's eight pages, it helps you and your coach get clarity about who you are and what you define success like for yourself. Because again, I just want to be so clear, the only definition of success, in my opinion, that matters is yours. Not mine, not some platform speaker, not Bob Proctor, not BJ Palmer, but you. And when you can get that, you can actually answer a really tough question. I'll tell you a question one of my coaches asked me years ago that literally stopped me in my tracks. Because at the time, I didn't have the answer to one single question. And I promise you that this all ties back into the concept of abundance consciousness and dollars tonight. He said to me, hey, Preston, how do you know when enough is enough? I said, what do you mean? He goes, how do you know enough time with your spouse is enough? How do you know if time with your kids is enough? How do you know if money's enough? How do you know if vacation is enough? How do you know when enough marketing is enough? How do you know enough sports is enough? How do you know if time with your brothers is enough? How do you know? And I mean, literally, he was fire hosing me. And I, at that point in my life, did not have the answer to one single of those questions. I can give you the answer to those questions now by literally, it's an exercise that I developed. It's called, I know I am successful when. And by literally defining success for yourself, and then by going through some of the pieces we're going to go through and monetizing it and bringing a dollar value to it, you will realize that you can then take this etheric thing called my dream life, and you can actually take it into a dollar value. And once you actually know what that is, it actually gives you tremendous power and tremendous clarity. So defining success for yourself, I recommend that people do this exercise, and I'll just give you the quick Coles notes on it in case you're not under a coaching program right now, where you literally look at your life throughout the hologram of life. You look at it through what we call the 7 areas of life: physically, mentally, spiritually, finance, career, family, and social. And you define success for yourself. So for example, for me, as one frame of reference, I know I am successful when physically, when I weigh between 190 and 200 pounds and have between 8 and 12% body fat. It's my definition. Yours may or likely is completely different. That's just one part of it. I know I am successful when I can carry on the tasks of daily living without struggle and without discomfort. It's part of my definition of success, personally on the physical plane. So now I can create goals to go ahead and live my life in my ideal and something that's very meaningful to me, instead of reading something in a book or hearing a platform speaker sometimes that says, you should live your life like this. Because the classic, practice management person will stand up on a platform and go, hey, look at me, I'm special. I did really well in life and in practice. And if you just copy or emulate everything I did, you'll be successful too. And I say bullshit. I call bullshit on that. And here's why I do. Because I'm not that person. I likely don't share their values. And as a result of not sharing their values, I don't share their goals. And if I don't share their goals, it's unlikely that I'll ever put the energy forth to go ahead and fulfill the goals because they're not authentic to me. The best I could hope to become is a cheap imitation of them. And I suggest that if you follow my worldview and you share it, I'm not suggesting you have to, but if you do, that there is an intelligence in the universe, a matrix of intelligence, and there's a subset of that within us, and it wants to express itself in a certain unique way for each one of us, it behooves us to figure out what the heck that is. And as a result of figuring that out, then define it for ourselves so that we'll know what it looks like when we get there. With only one exception, every client who's ever done this exercise realizes that they were a far greater success in their ideal than they ever knew possible. Because every person I've ever interacted with, maybe you're different, but every person I've ever interacted with has this little thing I call the inner critic. It usually sits right back here somewhere and chirps away at you that you're not good enough and you're not strong enough and you're not smart enough and you're not sexy enough and you're not whatever it is enough. And that little rascal will actually stop you and sabotage you from following through on getting projects done, getting them started, procrastinate, all kinds of things. When you can get that little rascal to go, sit in the corner and sulk because you're defining success by yourself and have an action plan for how to go and manifest it, now you've got power, you got creativity, and you got the wisdom, in my opinion, my worldview of the universe on your side. So again, we start with this place of definition of success via your core values. As a result of getting the clarity about your core values, you can then define success for yourself based upon your core values. Now you got a real clear picture of what success looks like for you. Because here's the thing, if you want to monetize dollars in exchange for service, the question is, why do you want to do that? What are those dollars funding that's of value to you? The classic story about the people who win the millions in the lotteries is that on average, there's always exceptions to rules, but on average, within 22 months, they're back to living the same life that they were previous to winning the millions. Why is that? Because it's about the psychology and the consciousness of who we are, what we feel we deserve in life, where our money blueprint's set, and how we want to define success for ourselves. So with that as a starting place, let's talk about how to monetize your dreams based upon your core values into a solid plan of action. And this was a fun story. My wife and I had the great honor and privilege of being at a beautiful sandals resort in Ochos Rios, Jamaica, when this whole process that I'm sharing with you today was brought forth to me. And literally we defined success for ourselves. And as a result of defining success for ourselves physically, socially, career-wise, family-wise, all around what we call the hologram of life, we then went through and did this exercise, which I'm going to explain to you now, which is where you actually go through and put a dollar value on what it costs you to live your life in your ideal. And I can tell you folks, when I did this exercise way back in the 90s, literally you could have blown me over with a feather. I was so blown away. Because when I actually defined success for myself and my ideal by my values, and then I went and monetized it and put a dollar value, what's it cost me to weigh between 190 and 200 pounds? What does it cost me to have some of the other standards of success that I've defined for myself and my wife? That when we monetize that and put a dollar value on that, which is tough to do sometimes, and some of this stuff doesn't cost anything, we realized that we were within $3,000 a month of living our dreams. $3,000 a month of not just some dream, folks, but our dreams, the absolute life of our dreams. We're not particularly ostentatious people. We don't necessarily need like 5 white gloved waiters to serve us, caviar for dinner. I don't necessarily need a driver to drive me around somewhere. I actually like driving my vehicles. So again, we're not very ostentatious people. So by some standards, we didn't have this like crazy life, but that was a conscious choice we made because the life that we wanted to live, we were very close to living it in our ideal. The power that gave me, folks, the hope that gave me was phenomenal. It really, I thought $3,000, man, we could generate that. No questions asked. I knew that we could do that. So when you actually accurately define this and you actually look at it, it allows you to, take this concept of hope and to really bring it into fruition for yourself in terms of what it is that it's going to take to actually live your life in your ideal. Because if you're not living your life in your ideal, you're likely living your life in someone else's ideal. And one of the things we'll talk about here in a few minutes is to be able to listen to your language and listen to some of the words you're using. If you're using words like ought to, got to, have to, need to, should, those are likely words from somebody else's voice or the voice of the inner critic, not necessarily your most authentic voice. Your most authentic voice uses terms like I choose to, I love to, I desire to. They're inspired words that come from the inside out about how you love to live your life. And when you're working from a place of inspiration, folks, I'll make a distinction here. You could literally look at the difference between inspiration and motivation. And as my great teacher taught me years ago, motivation is something that comes from the outside in. So you go to a seminar or go to a webinar to get motivated, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not a moral problem. But what tends to happen is the energy of that wears off because it's got to be brought back in again from the outside. And you've got to go get motivated again. When you're inspired, it's from in spirit is the root of the words in the Greek, enthos. And from this place of inspiration, you can then go and continue to stay motivated to literally from the inside out, to parlay on the words, in order to keep moving forward towards your dreams day by day by day. But first, you've got to actually know what the dollar value is. So again, this goes back to you can't hit a target you can't see. So by taking your core values, defining success for yourself, and I know I am successful when, and then literally taking that and putting a dollar value to what those 3 or 4 items per each of the 7 categories of life actually cost, you can then from that place know absolutely to a dollar how many dollars per month you need to generate to live your life in your ideal. And as I shared with you, I was within $3,000 a month the first time I did the exercise. With only one exception, in 18 years of coach consulting now, as a professional consultant to thousands of people around the world, entrepreneurs of all sizes and shapes, there's only one person who's ever done this exercise that I'm asking you to do, okay, that's ever thought that it was more money than they believed. In other words, most people thought they were closer to their dreams than they realized. Like my $3,000. $3,000, I'm not minimizing it, folks. It's a decent amount of money, but it's not an insurmountable amount of money when you're inspired from the inside out to actually go towards working towards your dreams. Because see, here's the reality, folks. Right? Money is just a form of energy. If you take our manifest universe down, and you look at Einstein's theory of relativity, where E equals mc squared, energy and mass or matter, the M in the E equals mc squared, are interchangeable the closer you get to c, the speed of light squared. So if you look at all the physical, tangible stuff in the world, like that tree in that graphic, that picture right there, it's just energy moving really slowly. Now, behind the energy, in my opinion, is a consciousness or intelligence, but the physical side of it is energy, which then slows down and takes form as matter. Here's what's entertaining about that, folks, are interesting. When you're in a place of service to humanity by sharing your gifts to the world, you're either sharing your gifts through service or through products. And really all you're doing is converting your love for humanity, your energy, your passion, your inspiration, and you're converting it into a service or a product that you're then exchanging back for energy, and usually in the form of dollars. Which, quite frankly, folks, if you follow the history of money, and I've read some great books like Neil Ferguson's book on the history of money, it literally started back in the days because I was a farmer and I had chickens. And I didn't want to just eat chickens, I wanted some milk. And so I would go to you as the dairy person, I'd say, how many chickens for, a gallon of milk? And we'd haggle and barter. And then I'd go, okay, well, but now I want some wheat. But the wheat guy doesn't like chickens. And he only likes pork. So I had to go and exchange some chickens for pork and then take the pork over to the wheat person and then get a bushel of wheat. It was confusing as all get out. And it was also very cumbersome and very slow. The other thing that literally the barter system didn't allow us to do is it didn't allow us to stockpile energy, particularly in commodities. So if you were a wheat farmer and your harvest only came, through in the fall, you would be in a place of feast relative to exchanging, getting lots of chickens and pigs and milk. But then maybe that stuff would go bad before you got a chance to use it in the spring, and then you'd starve to death. So by taking this concept of bartering your products and services and bringing in this middle equation called money, there was a way to stockpile energy in an easier form of exchange. Now, again, initially through Neil Ferguson's writings, I realized it was usually done with gold coins. But again, that turned into the paper money, the currency we use today based upon gross domestic product and all kinds of higher economics things, which in my opinion, we don't need to get into today. All right, so follow the logic. You, as an authentic being, have a certain way you want to express yourself in the world. I, for example, am a father, I'm a husband, I'm an athlete, I'm a business person, I'm a coach, I'm a chiropractor. I have lots of different ways that I express myself, and I choose to exchange those things for a service that I provide humanity, which if it's valued in the marketplace, people want to exchange it back with me. I've taken the time to get clear about my core values. As a result of getting the clarity about my core values, I also know how I define success for myself. I have clearly defined to a dollar how many dollars per month I need to generate in order to live my life in my conscious ideal. I now have energy, I have inspiration, I have passion, and I have a strong sense of hope that I can live my life that way because, as I told you earlier, when I did it, the first time I did this exercise of actually monetizing how I define success for myself, I was living a few $1,000s a month of that, and every client but one in 18 years has had the same experience. So now that we've got that dollar and monetization piece, now what we want to do is we want to go on to the next step, which is the value of segmenting money into appropriate categories to maximize your dreams. Because there definitely is a segmentation issue here, folks, about the concepts of money. And I suggest, and this has been written in most of the great writings that I've read, again, I told you, I'm giving you the Coles notes tonight, folks, 25 years of study. But the talk about having a vessel to receive the energy of dollars that you're exchanging into your life. And I believe that there should be 6 categories or 6 bags or 6 sacks or 6 jars or 6 mattresses or 6 bank accounts in today's culture. It's pretty easy to do, very safe, right? That you actually segment and you design your life in your ideal, as I said earlier, and you use these different pots, if you will, to fund those different aspects of your life, okay? And those 6 categories, folks, in my worldview that have worked very well in my life for the last 20-some years are savings, taxes, your basic lifestyle, your big rocks, debt reduction, and business costs. And let me just run through those for you together. Savings, most of the great writings that I've read about the concept of savings says to pay yourself first. I'm going to bet many of you on this call have actually heard that concept before. Pay yourself first. The psychology of paying yourself first lets you know that you're important. Lets the little inner critic in the back of your head quiet down so that you can, realize how important you are. Because the most important equation, the most important person in your business is you. Because if you're not there to provide the service or the product that you're providing for your clients, they can't benefit from it. And so the psychology of paying all of your creditors first and then paying yourself last, which is how I was raised, basically pay your bills and try and live on what's left over. The psychology of that says that everybody else in the world is more important than you. And that is not good psychology, folks, because in your life and your business, you're the most important person. And we want to make sure that you get that by having a savings target that you have every month, which we'll lay out as we walk through the time together tonight. And then you have an accountability partner that holds you accountable for manifesting and putting that money into that account as you've laid out in your ideal, not mine or anybody else's, in your ideal every month. And that target should be 10% of revenue. Okay, and I'll tell you a story about my life because mine was a long ways from 10% of revenue years ago. Taxes are just a reality in today's G8 nation. And what I highly recommend in the category of taxes is that you have a percentage. You talk to your accountant, your CPA, and you have a percentage of revenue, of net revenue, income, that you feel, your accountant feels is the appropriate percentage to save every month for taxes. And you have an account that's strictly called taxes, that's where that money goes. I do not believe it's wise to just have a dollar value. I was talking to a client today from Calgary who said, yeah, you're right, Doc. Last year I was saving X thousands of dollars for taxes. My business grew. I was still saving the same amount this year from last year. And my accountant, sends me a note and says, you owe the government $45,000 by Friday. I don't know about you, but there isn't that much spare change in the couch cushions to get to 45K by Friday. So again, having a percentage, because then as the business grows, then you're, obviously 22% of 100,000 is a number, but 22% of 200,000 is a different number, but it's proportionately the same. Okay. Lifestyle are all the things that cost to live your life. Heat, hydro, clothing, food, rent, all the different categories that make up your basic lifestyle. And again, we've got a form that will give you access to be able to, realize what some of the categories are. Big rocks are a cool thing in our world. Big rocks are things that get you emotionally excited about your life. They're things that just light you up and jazz you. They do not have to cost money. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. In our family, one of our big rocks for years has been to have dinner together every night of the week, like probably 360 plus days of the year out of 365. Seems a little corny, seems a little old-fashioned, seems a little like Little House on the Prairie. Works for me and my family. It's an important thing for us. Doesn't cost us anything more than eating any other time or in any other fashion. So again, big rocks do not have to cost money, but they light you up. We've also had very ostentatious holidays, like the time that we rented the old Molson family's mansion in Port Antonio, Jamaica, and had a staff of 6 just look after wherever women need. It was a very ostentatious recreation or holiday time, and we saved for that for several years to be able to afford that. Debt reduction are debts outside of business, folks. So these are personal debts, things like operating lines of credit, things like personal debts, student loans, those kinds of things. And business costs are anything that it costs you to run your business, anything that you can ethically and legally write off, in your jurisdiction. So by segmenting the money into 6 categories, you end up with the clarity. So let me give you an example of what commonly happens in my experience. And this is how I lived my life for many years. I had an operating line of credit on my business that I dipped in and out of all the time. If my wife and I had some money, we lived a little higher in the hog. If we didn't have some money, we dipped into the operating line of credit. And I was left with this amorphous fog in my brain, not knowing whether this month, whether by investing or spending this money, would my kids be able to go to college? If I put the money into the college savings, would I be able to pay the mortgage payment? If I paid the mortgage payment, would I be able to go on the holiday I want to go on in 3 months? And I had absolutely no clarity. And the psychology of that is not wise, because with clarity comes certainty, and with certainty comes positive energy, positive law of attraction, and literally it will help your business grow. So this is not just a good psychological thing. This is actually a business strategy that many, many great business leaders have adopted and that use over time. So for example, the ostentatious holiday I talked about where we rented the old Molson mansion in Port Antonio, I had to write a check for $8,000 deposit on the house. And I just went to my Big Rocks account. I wrote the check out of there, and I didn't have to worry about my savings category. I knew my kids' college fund was safe. Didn't have to worry about whether I was going to be able to pay my taxes. Didn't have to worry if I could pay my lifestyle account, because literally it was a separate vessel. It was a separate pot. It was a separate, in this case, bank account. And I had that clarity and that certainty that I could live my life and my ideal based upon having that segmentation of dollars. So again, if you do not have different vessels to receive, I highly recommend that's one of your first action steps outside of defining or clearly redefining your core values, to be able to go in and get those accounts set up. If you're into old socks or jars, cool, that's great, good for you. But in today's day and age with at least 128-bit SSL encryption, I feel very comfortable using bank accounts. And literally, folks, they're a couple of bucks a month. It's really not expensive to have extra bank accounts. And in many, like ING and President's Choice, different companies, in the States, Wells Fargo, some of the accounts are free. So again, it's not a big amount of dollars, and the psychology of the money is worth the extra couple of bucks, in my opinion. All right, point number 4: how to convert your financial plan into a debt of service to definitely supercharge your dreams. I contend that the 2 things that Western culture, in my experience, are the most messed up about is money and sexuality. And so literally when people just think about money, there's usually a lot of baggage that's brought up with it, okay? And I certainly, as I shared early on, bearing my soul to you guys, I had a lot of baggage about money based upon some of the discussions or fights that I heard from my parents, and there never seemed to be enough, and just problems and hassles and conflict and all of that kind of stuff. So when you start to think about a dollar value, when you actually do the exercises, core values, I know I am successful when, put an exact dollar value, what it will cost you to live your dream, get your 6 bank accounts, okay? So now you've got a game plan for what it is that you want it to look like. Then you might, that number, whether it's 10,000 or 100,000 a month, whatever the number is, or $1 million a month, it doesn't matter. So a lot of times there's a subconscious voice in the back of your head that starts to give you the, hey, Preston, you don't deserve that. Why do you think you're so special to be able to have 100,000 a month lifestyle? Blah, 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 or whatever the number is, right? And that little rascal can literally sabotage you. Either sabotage, put your toe in the spokes of your business, right? People have had businesses go up and then come down. Why do they do that? Well, commonly it's because you're doing it. You just may not be aware of it. It's your subconscious nonsense in the back of your head. So when you convert those dollars into a debt of service for the products or services you provide in your business, it completely changes the context of the psychology. And so for me, when I was doing the math on the $3,000 a month at the time with a $40 service visit average in my practice, right? If you do the math, 3,000 divided by 40 was 75 visits a month. You divide that by a 4-week month, it worked out to be about 19 visits a week. I was at the point working 4 days a week. So 19 divided by 4 is about 4 or 4.5 visits basically a day. So in other words, if I could just increase my production, my service to humanity by 4.5 visits per day, the days that I worked, I could live the life of my dreams. How energizing do you guys think that was for me? It was phenomenal for me. It just totally lit me up. I said, I can do that. But if somebody says, hey, Tom, can you do an extra $3,000 a month? It's like, I don't know, maybe. That's kind of weird. Seems like a lot of money. So convert your dollars into a debt of service, folks, okay? Convert it by taking your your service visit average, which is really easy to get. All you got to do is look at some financial statements. The longer period of time, the better. I recommend a year. Take your total revenue created in your business last year, divide it by your total services, and it'll give you your service visit average. Because again, many people, particularly because there's a lot of chiropractors in this call, they service fee for cash paying clients or for regular care, and then they discount seniors or kids or whatever, right? So you want to get your average, and that will literally give you the exact number of services you want to see. Because when I speak around the world, folks, commonly I'll ask people, say, so hey doc, tell me how many people a week you want to see. And I get numbers from anywhere from 50 to like 1,500. And, commonly what I'll do is I'll ask them, why? And they'll go, well, blah, blah, blah. And I'll go, yeah, but why? And they'll go, well, blah, blah, blah. And I'll go, yeah, but why? And I remember this one time I was lecturing in Edmonton and I literally pressed a well-known chiropractor in that area and I literally asked him why 11 times because his number was like 400 a week or something, right? And I said, why? And he gave me this. And I said, why? We went all the way through it. And literally he jumps up in the middle of the seminar, 136 people in the room. He jumps up. I have to know why. And it was quite humorous at the time. Stopped the seminar in its tracks. We all had a good laugh. And from that place, he literally got clarity to do the exercises that I'm doing my best to enroll you in doing so that you can have that clarity of knowing exactly how many services or products you need to convert, exchange with humanity on a monthly basis, weekly basis, in order to know exactly how you want to live your life in your ideal. All right. So when you get all these numbers and you get this, okay, whether it's 300 services a week or 10,000 services a week or 50 widgets or 5,000 widgets, it isn't the point. It's that you've done the math for yourself to find success for yourself, so you know what's going to be for you. Okay. But then you want to ensure your plan is congruent with the amount of energy you truly want to exchange with the universe. All right. And we call this basically an energy exchange calculator. I had a client one time, we did these exercises. I'm doing my best to enroll you guys in. And he ran through it and he goes, hey, good news. I did 30 versions of the dreams. I played with the dreams. I went through different variations and permutations of lifestyle and taxes and savings and all the different things that you suggested. 3 versions of it. And I'm like, dude, I'm impressed. That's pretty cool. And so, what did it convert to when you convert it into a debt of service? And he goes, well, I only have to see like 10,000 people a week in order to live the life of my dreams. I said, really? That's cool. That's great. I said, do you want to exchange that much energy with the universe? And the answer really quickly, no. He laughed. He goes, no, I was playing with a fantasy. He said, that's not a true dream for me. That's a fantasy. That's a myth. He said, I'm buying into someone else's nonsense when I'm doing that. I said, well, what's the number for you? He goes, 187. And I said, where are you at now? He goes, 147. I said, so you're telling me you're like with growing like 18 to 22%, you're going to be living the life of your dreams? He goes, yeah. And my wife and I are friggin' excited about that. So again, folks, you want to be checking in with the amount of energy you want to exchange, because whether you're in the service-based industries or a product-based industry, it still takes a certain amount of energy on your part to generate that product or that service. And again, it's not right or wrong. We're not having a moral discussion here tonight, right? But you definitely want to be deciding what that is for you and deciding whether you want to exchange that much energy or not, okay? So for me, for years, for example, in the chiropractic profession, all I ever heard for years was more volume, more volume, more service, right? And I bought into that. And so I built, without really doing the exercise I'm sharing with you tonight, which part of the reason I invested and designed these exercises is to get the answers to the questions inside of me. And now I get a chance to share it with you guys or with my clients. So literally through the process of building the clinic, it was 300, and there was 400 and 500 and 600 and so on. And then I had the privilege of looking after my best friend's practice, who literally practiced right beside me, my business partner. And when he was away for 2 weeks of holidays, and I saw about 1,000 people a week for 2 weeks. And I knew then that my energy exchange calculator was out of balance. I knew that regardless of the amount of energy I was getting back in exchange called dollars, it wasn't worth it to me. Now, again, you may be seeing, whether you're seeing 100 a week or 1,000 a week isn't the point. It's that you're doing it in your ideal, and you're doing it based upon conscious decisions, and that the energy exchange is accurate for you, okay? And that it works for you. Because it does take a certain amount of energy to, serve humanity, either through products or services. So doing this energy exchange calculator is really key. I already brought up the concept of listening to your language, all right? And what I mean by that, again, is listening to words like ought to, got to, have to, should. Oh, I should build my practice. Really? Why? Who said you should, right? Maybe the practice you're building right now is for you right now. Maybe you want to stay, but when you hear yourself saying, I should do that, I promise you that's somebody else's. Take note of that, take chart of that, follow it back, and you probably hear whose voice it was. Hopefully it wasn't mine or any other speaker you've ever heard. Hopefully if you decide to grow your practice, you're doing it because you consciously decided to do it in your ideal, not based upon someone else's standard or someone else's ideal. Again, when you're hearing terms like I desire to, I choose to, I love to, that's inspiration, folks. That's passion. That's inside out stuff. That's innate intelligence stuff. That's the stuff that I want to hear from you. And I want to hear you, because from there you've got power, energy, wisdom, creativity. It's because you're tapped in my opinion, my worldview, you're tapped into the energy intelligence of the universe. That, bright as you all are, is worth the price of admission. All right, moving on. Point number 6. Let's just say when you've done this work that I've asked you to do, you've actually got clarity, crystal clear now of exactly how many people, products or services you need to generate per month in order to live the life of dreams. And let's just say that a fictional example, which is a real example, but the example of the 187 that the gentleman come up with, and you're at 147. Well, what I would love to see you do is create a Hansel and Gretel breadcrumb trail from where you are to where you want to go in really bite-sized pieces. And as my great mentor taught me years ago, changes from a set point of 10 to 15%, okay? 10 to 15% usually don't create a strong emotional response, okay? And so what we're looking for here is for you to say, okay, if I'm going to grow from X thousands to this thousands, then I want to be able to do it in bite-sized pieces of 10 to 15% per 90 days or per quarter. So what I'm suggesting to you is this. Let's just say that you're at 20,000 a month, and when you do the math, you want to get to 25. Well, how long is it going to take you to get to 25? Well, my suggestion, what my offering to you is to do it in 10 to chunks per quarter. So if you're doing 20,000, per month, that by the end of the next quarter, you could choose to exchange more energy and to be, say, 10% higher, to be, say, at 22,000. And the quarter after that, you could be, 10% higher than that, or say 24.2. For that, you literally could be at your $25,000 goal if that's the goal. So the reason that this is of great value to you is because it quiets that little critic in the back that I keep talking about, this inner critic. And it's not like, I could do that amount of growth. If you don't feel like you could, and literally I ask you to go to your state of feeling here when you're looking at creating this breadcrumb trail from where you are to where you want to go, then don't do it. Grow in 4% increments or 2% increments or some other version of that, so that you know exactly that you feel, not just intellectually, but you feel in your heart like you can do that, like you can build force, so you can shut the inner critic up. Because I promise you, folks, the greatest saboteur in your life and in your practice, it's you. It's me. We're the ones that stick our toe in the wheel of businesses and slow them down and don't manifest as much. So by setting up growth standards in smaller amounts, it makes it much, much, much easier to get there, and increases the probability by 1,000-fold in my experience, 18 years now, doing this for clients, to actually get there. All right, let's bring this thing in for landing. Let's go through the last part of this. I also highly suggest you create a monitoring or accountability system so you can adapt and flex your plan as needed. And in our program, we call this your life planning sheet or your bliss sheet, your business life intention sheet, your bliss sheet. Okay. So again, if you look at this graphic here, folks, you can see that we've got savings. This is just one example of a quarter, January to March, just as one representation. You got your savings, taxes, lifestyle, big rocks, debt reduction, and your office expenses. Okay, to give you a total distribution a month. If you follow your average fee for service or your transaction amount, you divide it into that total distribution. You get your transactions for the month. You divide by 4, and you get your service or transactions per week. All right. So again, then what you do is you set your needs. And you say, okay, if it's the first month of the year and you're setting out your game plan, of course, you can do it now for the month of July. And you can say, my intention for savings is going to be X. My intention for taxes is Y, and so on and so forth. All based upon the amount of energy you want to exchange with the universe and the amount of service or products that you want to provide for humanity. Okay? So what you're looking at here, folks, is basically a way to create a game plan. And you'll notice if you look underneath the concept of January, you'll see that there is a goal or an intention, and then there's an actual. Okay? And so what I would encourage you to do is to have an accountability partner, whether your coach or your spouse or a business partner or someone who can actually help you go back through and say, okay, you intended to put $200 into savings. How much did you actually put in? Because if you're not putting in actual amounts, of course, it's not real. And if you're not charting it or monitoring it, as Peter Drucker says, what gets measured gets managed. If you're not putting exact amounts in, then you have no way to say whether your plan you've set up is working or not. Okay? So again, having an accountability partner or someone to help you monitor whether your plan is working or not is extreme. And so if you don't have a plan, you're screwed. If you don't have an accountability system, the likelihood of success is, because I'm going to bet there's people on this call that have had ups and downs, as we said earlier, in your business and your expression. Well, part of the reason may be that you didn't have a clear plan was connected to your values. Another reason may be you didn't have a monitoring system, because what gets measured gets managed. What gets measured grows or changes from its set point. And you weren't basically following your own game plan. So the Hansel and Gretel breadcrumb trail can be laid out step by step by step in, basically a simple spreadsheet. And, I'm happy to share this with you folks. I've got a few giveaways here as we wind this program up tonight that I'm happy to share with you. And this sheet I did years ago, and every one of my classes is certainly something I'd be happy to share. Somebody that has not invested the time or a little bit of money to find your core values, there's a 2-part e-course that we have on my website. If you go at the graphic here to my website, drtompreston.com/values/core-values. Basically, it's a $147 investment. It's a 2-part e-course. And with the 2-part e-course, I have a feeling my microphone isn't always working, folks. I apologize for that. I'm breaking up at times. Thank you, Dino, for sharing that wisdom. The 2-part e-course is designed to take you through the questionnaire, and then what one of our authenticity coaches does is they literally review it by email with you. Because you chose to be in the call tonight, you qualify for a complimentary authenticity call to go over reviewed with a trained coach of my hand picking on the phone, as well as the email support to ensure that the distillation or edit process is there. That's usually a $150 fee in our company. That's gratis for you for showing up to the webinar tonight and investing in your own development. So again, go to drtompreston.com/core-values. And by doing that and investing that, and then relaying the investment back to us by emailing either me, Dr. Tom at drtompreston.com, or admin, A-D-M-I-N, admin at drtompreston.com, we'd be happy to get one of our authenticity coaches to book a call at a mutual convenient time over those core values and make sure the distillation process and so done so that you've got that really important step. As I said earlier, I'm happy to share, the abundance that we've developed over our lifetime. And so this bliss sheet, which allows you to manage finances, stay accountable to your goals, lower your overhead, plan for taxes, pay off debts. This is something it's free. It's my gift to you for being on the webinar tonight, investing in your own growth and development. Okay. Again, we call it a business life plan intention bliss. And again, if you'd like your free copy, just email admin@drtompreston.com, and we're happy to send that to you so they can use it as a tool to basically, which is the cornerstone of all of my coaching clients, their ability to plan and manifest life in their ideal based on their core values, their definition of success, breaking it down into depth of service, creating a monetization strategy for what their ideal life looks like, and then also creating a Hansel and Gretel breadcrumb trail, go from where they are to there. So the tool is yours for the asking. Just email admin@drtompreston.com. If you'd like to immerse yourself into this concept a lot more deeply, we're actually doing a live event. This is being recorded in 2015. If you'd like to come to a live event to really dive into this deeper, we'd love to have you. Literally this weekend, June 2021, we're going to be doing what we call our focus event, which really is looking at time and money consciousness and money management strategies. The things talked about tonight, Nicole's notes, we're going to blow up into a great big whole weekend. It's literally a 16-hour program. It runs on Saturday from noon to 8, and then Sunday morning from 8 to 2:33. So everybody can get home for dinner. You can even be with your friends and then come to the program. It's also designed to clear blocks. So again, a lot of the people that have come to these programs in the past were people that seemed to work very hard but didn't seem to have as much as they feel they should. They procrastinated. They're frustrated, confused in their life. They were afraid of being judged. Their inner critic was, out in full force. They're afraid of failing. Some people were afraid of being successful. It's basically all of that noise, folks. If you're in the chiropractic, it's all of those subluxations that exist above the atlas, right? B.J. Palmer wrote so eloquently about. So those are the kind of people that have had great success at these programs before. If you've got limiting beliefs about yourself, you've got a scarcity consciousness, you seem to be stuck in a rut right now, the Focus Seminar is designed to go in and release those obstacles to your success from the inside out and allow you to manifest more abundance in your life based upon your ideal. As I said, it's this weekend in Toronto, Mississauga, 4 Points by Sheraton on Airport Road. Check-in time is 11:30, 11:40 on this Saturday, June the 20th, and love it there. If you'd like the details, the investment is only $277 for the entire weekend. We've made it very affordable. And because you're to invest in your life, in your abundance tonight, by being on the webinar, you do choose to come this weekend. We'd love to have you. We've got seats available at this point. You literally, if you invest the $277, you buy one, you'll get one for 50% off. So you can bring a spouse, bring a business partner, or a teammate, an associate, a friend. Again, it's not specifically a healthcare or chiropractic event by any stretch of imagination. Many people signed up, or people signed up from different walks, different businesses. We have staff coming, we have spouses coming, we have a whole different array of people coming to the program this weekend. So again, it's not just a chiropractic event because it's about clearing obstacles to your success in your consciousness, looking at those blueprints that are in your subconscious mind and using the tools. Because literally, this is not a talking head program, folks. This is literally where we're going to get down and dirty. We're going to actually do the work. So concept, work for an hour or two, whatever it takes to go through it, clear out the blocks, move on to the next piece. It's a very integrative, very hands-on sort of experience. So again, if you do choose to do that and come this weekend, because and only because you're at this webinar, if you enter the coupon code CORE VALUES at checkout, you'll be able to get any secondary signups for literally 50%. So go to www.seminar.drtompreston.com. That's seminar.drtompreston.com if you'd like to join in to take these concepts much, much deeper. I want to end the program tonight, folks, to let you know with absolute confidence and certainty that you do deserve to be wealthy in your ideal. No one else's, but in yours. Okay? And I mean, literally, small business entrepreneurs are the engine that drives the little engine that the little engine that could. I think I can. That drives the economies of all G8 nations. Okay, and particularly those of you as entrepreneurs that are willing to out there and provide this amazing service or product that you do to humanity. You deserve to be appropriately exchanged for that. You deserve to take this amazing service that you provide and exchange it in the open market and get an amazing exchange back in return. So Ayn Rand is one of my favorite writers about the concept. If If you haven't read any of Ayn Rand's writings, like Atlas Shrugged or The Fountainhead, I highly recommend you do. It really helped get my head on straight relative to how to be in fair exchange for the great service I provide humanity. And one of the many things I enjoy about the financial position my wife and I have manifested in our life is I think of all of the thousands and thousands of people we've served through our businesses, through our service, through my chiropractic practice, through my coach consulting business, through her nutrition business. And I'm telling you something, folks, it just makes my heart sing to know that there's all of these people able to help us through the service we provide. And so we take the abundance in the form of monetary abundance. We take it with great joy. We enjoy it. We serve ourselves, serve our family, a lot of charities with that abundance. We do it with great joy and great pride because we know the marketplace is never wrong. It always comes back to service. And if you love more and you serve more and you choose to celebrate your greatness and your abundance, it'll come back to you in spades. Folks, that's what I had to share tonight. I appreciate you taking time out of your lives to be here. Dr. Dino, I'd love to come to Texas, so give me an invitation and a reason I'd love to come. And again, if you have questions, concerns, or you'd like to do what we call an authenticity consult with me or one of my trained authenticity coaches at our company, I would love to do that. Reach out to me personally, folks, right? Literally, Dr. Tom at drtompreston.com. That's Dr. Tom at drtompreston.com. That's my private personal email. Email me. Let me know your story. Let me know what's going on in your life. Let me know what's going on in your business. If we could be of service, if I could help you, that's a complimentary consult because you chose to be in this webinar. You chose to invest in your life. Please reach out, folks, if you'd like a consult, if you'd like some help. If you'd like some help designing a monetary plan, if you feel like there's some abundance you're stuck on or something you don't understand about the concept of fair exchange, I would be more than honored to invest some of my time to help you, because the more I serve, the more I find that I get back in exchange, and that's the same for you as well. So, folks, thank you so much for spending time. Again, I apologize for the technical issues. There will be, God willing, a recording of this if the technology didn't let us down. And I really, really, really appreciate you guys spending time with me. So God bless. Know that what you're doing is making a difference in the world. And again, if we can be of service, I certainly would love to hear from you. So have a great night, folks. Good night, everybody.